I would definitely like to thank you both, David, KC, for allowing me the privilege of appearing before you. I'm really sorry I couldn't come out there in person because your group is doing great things. I admire you very much for what you're doing, and I encourage everyone to get involved. But thanks for the privilege of allowing me to share a few words with you about the abortion situation. We started out with va-Dor, but we've expanded and we're thrilled. We have a legal team. We have more plaintiffs representing Buddhists, Unitarians, an abortion doctor, and a woman of childbearing age who's had abortions before and wants to be able to have them again. We've relied upon RFRA, Religious Freedom and Restoration Act, as well as the constitutional safeguards of freedom of religion, free exercise clause, the establishment clause, you can't establish a religion, freedom of speech, and the due process and equal rights. We've expanded this and we've asked people all over the country to do the same. I've provided a template of my lawsuit. Anyone who wants to do the same, come to me and I'll share it with you freely with my blessings and my instructions for how to do the same. The abortion case is really a microcosm of an effort by some people to dismantle the wall of separation between church and state. This principle is what makes this country what it is. Our founding fathers recognized that in order to keep religion and government pure, they had to be free of each other's influence. It was James Madison who said that the wall of separation of church and state is essential in order to avoid having the soil of the United States soaked in blood as it was in Europe with all of their religious conflicts and warfare and inquisitions and crusades. There was Thomas Jefferson also, who told the Baptists of Danbury that there would always be a strong wall of separation. Washington promised it to the Jews of Newport. And now we see a group of people, fundamentalist Christians, Catholics, who are trying to take us back to the very horrors that the founders tried to avoid by trying to dismantle this wall of separation in a very overt, brazen way. They had the head of state, DeSantis, appear in a church in order to announce the anti-abortion law. You couldn't find a more graphic example of trying to dismantle the wall of separation between church and state. It's essential that all people of goodwill fight back against this. In order to restrict abortion rights, as they're trying to do, they must show a compelling governmental interest in such restrictions. Sadly, our Governor DeSantis has no such interest. The only interest that is compelling him to pass this law is his political lust for power and trying to curry favor with the fundamentalists. If he had any regard whatsoever for life and the sanctity of life, he'd be pushing for universal health care, banning assault weapons, and protecting our precious planet. Instead, he and his acolytes do the opposite. The United States Supreme Court had people placed on the court specifically to overturn Roe v. Wade. They were placed there by an admitted serial abuser of women so that they could codify his abuse into law. They should be impeached instantly as the fruit of the poisonous tree. This is a great affront to the Jewish people. Jews consider life to begin at birth. That is how it is in the Torah and the Talmud and Maimonides. And the very one thing that almost all Jews can agree on, and we don't agree on much, except for how much the other Jews should give to charity. We do agree on this, that life seems to begin at birth. And one thing that we all agree with is that when it comes to a contest between the best interests of the fetus and the mother wins every time. The mother is a fully developed human being. We respect the mother. Women who go through the vicissitudes and sometimes the risk to their health and life of bearing children, we give them the option to decide when they are ready to become a parent. Becoming a parent by choice and love is the greatest blessing. Parenthood, when it's forced and coerced by the state, is a curse. Judaism believes that life begins at birth. The fundamentalists say it begins at conception. That is a misconception of the Bible. The Bible actually has a pregnant silence, if you'll pardon the expression, about any abortion bans. There are no bans in Jewish or Christian scripture because both scriptures are pro-choice. Surrounding cultures knew about abortion. They legislated against it. Ours did not. The rhetoric that they use is highly misleading. Pro-life, of course, as I mentioned, they're not pro-life. They're really pro-lie. And they call a fetus a preborn human being. That makes as much sense as calling you and me a pre-dead corpse. They're confusing potential and actual. As a fetus, it is not the same as a human being, and therefore it shouldn't be treated as such. By the way, there is an anti-Semitic component to this. As someone who's litigated in abortion cases for years, I've heard the antis, the fundamentalists, talking about Jewish doctors becoming rich by killing babies and perpetuating a Holocaust. I've heard them say that they have regard for the sanctity of life and we don't. How dare they? How dare they have the chutzpah to take the Jewish scripture, distort it beyond recognition, and then force it back upon the Jewish people by force of law. Our government says we don't care if you're influential politically or if you have more people or more numbers than the rest. Every group is entitled to religious freedom, and that's what we are fighting for. And by the way, I'll just conclude with this. The greatest threat to the planet is climate change. And the greatest reason for the peril that we now face is overpopulation. To be forcing women to be bringing children into an already crowded world for which we do not have the resources against their will is blasphemy. Thank you very much for the privilege.
Thank you.